All of merit to the foundation of the music, to all the godfathers who set it.
This is musically speaking. You've got to be careful waiting for the horses. Sometimes you'll come out at the wrong side of the track. And that's what has happened today. Just waiting for the horses, and we've had a delay at the track. Today, we're going to be talking later on about a special initiative that's happening in the heart of the city. And that is being undertaken by a group called Sounds and Pressure. Now, you will understand that the heart of the city, or the heart of Kingston, as the great Tony Lang would call it, is at the center of our musical creativity. Many of the greats, as far as studio owners, sound system operators, they were at some point in their careers associated with downtown Kingston. Orange Street was an important point, and then of course, you'd have these other streets running off, Charles Street, Beeston Street, and even North Parade, where Randy's used to be. And these outlets, as I would call them, were really pivotal to the development of Jamaican music. And there is a move afoot to re-energize the center of Kingston and to really make it a point for people to visit and understand the history of our music. I want to tell you something, that come next Saturday, the bridge will be downtown celebrating with Jimmy Solar his 80th anniversary. Jimmy Solar is a fixture downtown. He has been a man who has made an enormous contribution to the life of the inner city. He has been a sound system operator. He has been a dance show promoter. He is one who is a source of so much musical knowledge. He happens to be the father of Dr. Dennis Howard too. And, if you really want to connect with some of the icons and some of the movers and shakers in Jamaican music, it's a good idea to go by Jimmy's Jazz Hut on Charles Street, between Chancery Lane and Orange Street. And, you never know who you'll find there. And so we'll be talking with Julian Jingles Reynolds. He is at the forefront of that initiative to revitalize that area. Of course, we should make mention of the fact that there is a major undertaking downtown, by Kingston Creative, and they have done a remarkable job beautifying downtown Kingston with those fabulous murals. But the people at Sounds and Pressure, which is led by Julian Jingles, they have been advocating for a long time the creation of what perhaps could be described as a living museum downtown. So, try to refocus people's attention on some of the important points, in that area. As I said, you have so many historical events that have taken place downtown, and you have so many points of importance in terms of Jamaican culture that it's a great tourist attraction. And that is what people like Julian Jingles are trying to do in terms of making it appealing once more, because it has lost some of its luster, and people like Julian want to bring it back. Today, later on this evening, Irama celebrates its 40th anniversary, and I want to salute Ephraim Martin for having stayed the course in terms of this particular event, where he honors outstanding people in Jamaican, Caribbean, and African music. And he has been doing this now for 40 years. So we want to say enough respect to Ephraim Martin. There's so much happening. There is also next week, we have the Red Rose for Gregory concert, and that's going to be a big event, with Denise Williams and, so many others. It's going to be quite a show, because the Gregory Isaacs Foundation, they usually put on a real good event. So it's something to look forward to. So there are many, many things that are happening, and Julian Jingles will join us at 1 o'clock, and we'll be talking about the initiatives downtown. In the meantime, this is Musically Speaking, a slightly different version today. I'm Clyde Mckenze, and Danelia is on the other side, and so too is Kevin. So we'll be here with you until 2 o'clock. Classic production from Vincent Randy Chin. Yes, this is from downtown, 17 North Parade. And this Randy's, as they call it, they morphed into VP Records. So the Vincent Randy Chin we're talking about is the V in VP. And we know the contribution that VP has made in terms of the distribution of Jamaican music, particularly dance hall, across the world. And that was the great Lord Creator. And he came to Jamaica and really kicked up a storm during the 60s. And he came from Trinidad. And he is still alive and well, living in Montego Bay. And that was one of the classics coming from downtown. So, we have to give credit to that region of our city, and we need to revitalize it. Well, there's a lot of things going on down there. You see these new buildings emerging. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs has now been relocated. I think it all started when Digicel went down there and set up their operations headquarters, and things have been moving afoot. And you have to give credit to a lot of people. I remember the great Paco Kennedy. It was his passion to revitalize downtown Kingston, and he did so much to make that happen. You have to give credit to people like Maureen Seymour, at Kingston Restoration Company. These people are passionate about downtown Kingston and have done everything in their powers to revitalize it. And now you see all these new entities mushrooming, on the waterfront. You see Ribbies and, all these other places, Glorias and, you know, Island Vibes and so many different entities now flourishing down there, the ROK Hotel, nice venue for entertainment. There's a lot going on down there, and you've had people who have stayed there through thick and thin, talking about somebody like Jimmy Solar, James Howard, who has been there through all the ups and downs, and people like these have to be celebrated because we are wasting a valuable asset when we don't take care of our downtown, when we don't take care of the heart of our city. And we were allowing it to deteriorate rapidly. And in the last couple of years, we have started to arrest that slide. And we have to give credit to all those people who have sought to invest in downtown, and we want to give our acknowledgement to people like Sounds and Pressure who are working assiduously to make the city better, and also to Kingston Creative, who have been doing quite a good job in making sure that the city comes back to its former glory. So as I indicated, we will be talking with Julian Jingles in a little while, but we're going to give you some more songs that have come from downtown. The first Blackhead Chinaman. Now that was, you would call it a clapback, or you would call it, well, it wasn't a clapback. I think Derek Morgan's was a clapback. That was a slap to Derek Morgan, because Derek had left Prince Buster's stable and had gone to Leslie Kong. And Prince Buster was very offended by that move because he thought that he was betrayed for the Chinaman. And that is where that song, The Blackhead Chinaman, really came about. And they had an interesting symposium of which I was a part down at the Institute of Jamaica some time ago, called The Blackhead Chinaman, and it was really looking at the role of the Chinese in the development of Jamaican music. And believe me, they have, the Chinese, that is, made a significant contribution to the development of Jamaican music. When you think of names like Leslie Kong, just one of them, and Vincent Chin and Byron Lee, and you could go on and on, the Who Kim brothers and the Chinloys, Herman Chinloy and his family, and you could go on and on and on. And they were really instrumental in the development of modern Jamaican music. And as I indicated to you, Prince Buster was very offended by the idea that his friend had basically moved up to the further up Orange Street, because Leslie Kong's Beverly's Records was really located at basically at the corner of North Street and Orange Street, and Buster's shop was just a little below that, on the same street, on the same hand of the street, to be honest, or the same side of the street. And so the just the energy, the creative energy that really informed what was happening on these streets, and in particular Orange Street. It's really impressive. Now, Leslie Kong, he died early, but Leslie Kong was the man who gave us the first Bob Marley recordings, One Cup of Coffee and Judge Not. And Leslie also had that big smash hit we call Israelite with Desmond Decker. He really had a certain touch in terms of making hits. I think he died at about 36, but in those 36 years, just like Bob Marley, did in 36 years, he made an enormous contribution. Leslie Kong, he's basically started the recording career of Marley. Jimmy Cliff was also one who was there with him, and Toots Hibbert did some fabulous music out of that stable, and you could go on and on. I think we should listen to Israelite by Desmond Decker. That was a smash hit. It was number one in Britain and I think number two in the United States on the Billboard charts. That's how big it was. And this is Leslie Kong and Desmond Decker, Israelite. Desmond Decker, Israelite, one of those songs produced downtown, Orange Street to be exact, from the archives of the great Leslie Kong. Now, in a few minutes, we'll be joined by Julian Jingles Reynolds, and we'll be talking a little bit about, downtown and the importance it has had in the development of Jamaican music and culture. It's downtown where you have the Coronation Market and all the major markets in Kingston. It's downtown where you have the ports and, so many things happen downtown. And we want to promote, we want to celebrate that area of our national life, the museums, the galleries, all the things that occupy some space downtown. And as I indicated before, there is that move to bring back downtown to its former glory. When I remember as a small child, everything was happening downtown. King Street and Orange Street and Princess Street. These were hubs of activity. When you went downtown, the space was a beehive of activity and everything was just groovy. Things didn't go quite well for a while, because there was deterioration of the space and elements of violence, but efforts are being made to bring back downtown, and there are companies that have stayed there. Grace Kennedy, they've been there for as long as we can remember, and before many of us were born. I think they're like 100 years now, and all of these companies have been working hard to restore downtown to its former glory. The stock exchange is there, the Bank of Jamaica is there, and now we have the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is there, and so many things are happening. The Jamaica Conference Center, ROK Hotel, so much is happening, and Julian will tell us a little bit more about what is happening downtown. Musically speaking, looking at downtown, the center of our city. And today I have with me a man who has been spearheading an initiative to revitalize downtown, and he is one who is passionate about the importance of downtown to national development. I'm talking about none other than Julian Jingles Reynolds, journalist and so many other things, a visionary if there is one. He is definitely one who doesn't mince words, and he is definitely one who is not afraid to go after what he believes in. Julian, how are you, my brother and friend?
My brother and friend Hamdulillah, can you hear me?
I'm hearing you, Alhamdulillah, my brother.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you and the bridge so much for having me on. A little disturbing to my work, but I am on, and I appreciate this very much.
Yes, it's great to have you. Now,
Thank you.
Julian, you have been involved with Sounds and Pressure, this group that has been spearheading an initiative to revitalize downtown. This process is not a brand new one. You have been at it, working to ensure that Kingston and the heart of Kingston is restored to its former glory. Expand on that for me.
Well, Clyde, Paul, and to the listeners, again, thank you. I could not escape the path that I'm on. It's a path that was selected for me to journey on. Even though I have lived far more of my life outside of Jamaica in the United States, nevertheless, it was done in such a way that I always had a connection to Jamaica, and in particular to Kingston. I've done several projects in Jamaica, and I continue doing so because I think it's from my origination. I was born in Fletcher's. Well, I was born at Jubilee
Lining.
Hospital. Lining. And it's interesting that I just learned many years after that it was really lying in.
It's a lying
but
in, yes.
My mother and that generation,
That's a
they
lying
just
in.
called it lying.
And,
You
and
know, so-
90% of us
Yes.
in Kingston, born, in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s,
Yeah.
90s, even now,
Yeah.
were born at the line in or line in,
Yes.
which is in the heart of Kingston too.
Absolutely. And then on top of that for me is that I really am a product of Fletcher's land, which is like almost next door beside to the hospital lying in, so to speak. So,
Yes, it's just a few streets away.
precisely. Yeah. So I couldn't escape the path from then.
And you went to school. On North Street.
Well, before that,
And-
even before that, as a product of North Street, I'm going to show you how embedded all of this isn't to me. I was born at the top of Duke Street, and my back gate was in John's Lane,
Right?
and just across the lane was caterers. Now,
Yes.
most people never know, even people who were living there, the importance and the significance of caterers to the Jamaica music dancehall industry.
Yes.
It was a training ground, and I learned many years after that it was founded by the Bailey family, God rest their souls, Amy Bailey. Caterers was where they trained young women, 99% of them were young women, to serve in the catering industry.
Okay.
And caterers was the HQ. And if you woke up on a good day and spit hard from my yard, my back gate, it fell into caterers. Now, caterers was where some of the major dances. It was a relatively small place, but it carried a dynamic history as it relates to the music. And so my mother many years later would tell me that I couldn't escape all of that with the music because from she was carrying me, the music
You were
was
listening.
penetrating her womb.
You were listening to the music.
Listening to the music, man, listening to the music. And so, and again, I'm just showing you and the listeners how much this whole music culture has been in me and after me. The very first school that I attended, Clyde Paul, the very first school, I was considered like a precocious child, I guess. So I started going to a learning institution when I was about 3 years old, and I was still living at the top of Duke Street in Fletcher's Land. And the school that I went to, just because one of the headmistresses, there was two teachers, one a headmistress and the other one her assistant. One of them actually lived in my yard at 128 Duke Street, where I was born.
Mm-hmm.
And she headed this school, and you would never believe this. The first school I went to was at Foresters Hall.
You mean where they used to have all these big dances and
Biggest dance, I mean, it is the premier dance hall in Jamaican music culture. That's the first school I went to because it was owned and run by the Foresters.
because it was a lodge, it was a lodge hall. Yes, it was
Lodge
a lodge
hall.
hall. Yes,
It's a lodge hall. And a lot of these lodge halls served as dance halls on the weekends.
right.
And so Foresters Hall being the largest of it and the most central. Now Foresters Hall is right at the corner
of Love Lane. Is that
and North Street.
North Street? Yes.
Yes, just off from King Street.
Yes.
So Foresters Hall was where I went to school, and I can remember as a child because I remember a lot of things when I was very young. Like Dre cards would come to pick up the boxes, the sound systems that would have played on a Saturday night.
But
They would pick it up.
prior to that, Jingles.
Yes,
the
sir.
big band would have been playing. Bands would have been playing at Foresters Hall too, right?
Well, no, I don't recall bands being there. I mean, I don't remember any. There was another point, another joint up the road was a hotel, which was right across the street. I think the name of it was Melrose. And that hotel was where live music, this is all in Fletcher's Land now. This is all in Fletcher's Land.
Right.
Foresters Hall, Jubilee, Tile Garden,
yes,
the other
right.
well-known dance all across. So the music just surrounded me and embedded itself in me, even though I was fortunate to, and this is another imprint, that my dad, who had a tremendous influence on me, tremendous. He was a port worker who believed in work. He believed in the church, God, his family, and dances. He was an avid music lover.
Was a legs man, was a dancer man.
Yes. Oh Lord, excellent, excellent. I mean, he was a stepper. I didn't pick that part of it up from him, but I got to love the music and to know the music, to understand the music. I remember my father taking me as a child, a little boy in the early to mid 50s. I was a little boy, 6-year-old or whatever. And he took me to race course, which was really known as a race course then.
So they used to have the cycling there and thing.
Yes, Townmore, the cycling and all that. Right up the top there where I think it's the official name is George VI.
Yeah, park.
Memorial Park. I think that's the official name.
Right.
And that's where the great Louis Satchmo Armstrong performed in the 50s. This was like 54, 55, thereabout. And my dad took me to that concert. It was my first exposure to jazz and live music. And he held me on his shoulder, and from then on, he never failed to let me understand the dynamics and the importance of music. So I say that to say again that it is a path that I've been on all my years. And so I continue to serve it. I grew up around in Kingston, from Jonestown to Franklin Town, to Raytown, Rallington Town, always the music, always the music. And so it wasn't, I guess it wasn't strange to my parents when I went as a young journalist to the Gleaner after
North Street again. North Street. Well, that time it wouldn't have been North Street when you started. It would have been downtown, wasn't it? When you Harbour Street, when you started the Gleaner, you were at Harbour Street.
Yeah. It was precisely. I started in the late 60s, mid 60s actually. It was Harbour Street. But then again, it moved
It eventually moved to North
to
Street.
North Street, and I was like back home, so to speak. So it's always been there. I decided very, very early in my journalism career. I felt that there is a story that is of great significance that is not being told properly.
You know, if
And
I,
it's
no, go ahead, Julian.
it's the importance of the music to the Jamaican culture and to the national development of this country. I was fortunate to be exposed to it from the beginning of my thinking. And so I continued, and at about 1968, after I had spent about a year on the staff at the Gleaner Company, I had a misunderstanding with the great editor who everybody would call him my godfather, Theodore Seeley.
Bull Seeley.
Yeah,
The
and
bull.
we had a big misunderstanding, and it was a political misunderstanding too. I won't get into that now, but it is why I really walked away from the Gleaner after being on the staff there for about a year. And when I decided that I would go back, because Mr. Seeley met with my dad and they spoke about, youthful exuberance and all that explanation why I would do what I did. And I went back there and began immediately writing on the music industry in its fledgling stage. I was fortunate, Clyde Paul. I was extremely fortunate to be there when the music was
In its
unfolding.
infancy, yeah.
Unfolding. I had already loved ska. I still think that the Scatolites is one of the greatest bands that the world has ever experienced. For me, I love the Scatolites. So I grew up loving ska music. Jazz is my first love, naturally. But then I also went into the whole rocksteady era. I had just started writing because I actually began writing my novel, A Reason for Living, in 1966, just immediately after I left Kingston College. And so when I went to the Gleaner in 67 on the staff, Mr. Seeley told me that I would not make it in Jamaica as a writer. That's what I wanted to be. And he invited me to take the test, and, I joined the Gleaner. And after I walked away and went back, I started to write about the music industry. It was an emerging music industry. And I saw what these young people were doing, some of them not too young. And I'm very thankful, alhamdulillah, that I was able to form friendships in the 60s with some of the greatest contributors to the Jamaican music industry. People like Clement Dodd, the Wailers, all of them, Bob, Peter, Bunny, Rita, they were all my friends, because I was writing features about them. I was writing what they're doing, what they're trying to do, and I was just doing it because I thought it was important to an extent for them. Mm-hmm. And it formed this friendship I had with them, and it grew. The Heptones, name them, all of them. They were my friends. I had a very great rapport with the late, great Bob Andy. Beautiful brother. And so many others. Vic Taylor, who was the lead singer for Byron Lee and the Dragonaires.
Vic Taylor does it his way.
Precisely. Excellent voice.
Yeah, I remember.
And Houghton Lewis, Ken Boole, Bob and Dennis Brown. I remember Dennis as a youngster, as a teenager. When I went up to one of the things I wrote very early.
But he's a product of Orange Street.
Precisely, Beat Street.
Yes.
And he grew up in that strong environment. And I remember seeing Dennis as a child, as a young man. He was maybe 12 or 13 thereabout, up at Brentford Road, because I would go there to get the records. I did a column called Record Shop. that featured the releases of the Jamaica. It started out as a British United States uh, weekly article on their product. And I spoke to my editors and they listened and they accepted my argument. And we turned that English US report on that their industry into the Jamaican music industry report. And it maintained the name. The name was Record Shop from the beginning. And then I took it over and started writing a weekly column about the music industry, all the releases that came out in that period of time from like 68 up until when I left Jamaica in 72. I wrote that column and it brought me even closer to the music industry. All of them, the Byron Lees, what's his name from Federal Records, the Couriers.
Yeah,
the Couriers.
Yes.
The other one I still pass by up at Racecourse, Caribbean, whatever, that they're still there. They were big manufacturers of records. Duke Reed, the Trojan, that's a whole other story again that I have with Duke, an excellent producer, excellent.
So,
and
yeah,
it went on. You know, I'm just saying that path that I had.
It was inevitable. It was inevitable that you would have this affinity for this region of the city.
Yes,
even
sir.
After you went away,
left and went away and did all kinds of things and came back.
But you still have that passion for the place, because so much of your life really revolved around that area, you know,
from conception.
No,
yeah.
but no, and I mean, for me too, you know, it's very important. I mean, another man who born at Lining, went to school at St. Anne's, at St. Anne's infant and primary schools, and then to St. George's. So, I mean, most of my early education is on North Street, and of course, I must remind people that I started my journalism work as a 13-year-old. Working for Raymond Sharp, the great Raymond Sharp. The great Raymond Sharp. Still a student at St. George's back in the 70s there. The great Raymond, he was the one who really gave me the start in journalism at the insistence of my big brother Curtis Myrie, you know. So these are things that we really share in terms of our provenance, you know. We're from that same area. And I mean, my mother really, she spent a lot of her time in the big yard before I was born, on Orange Street, where Dennis Brown really grew up, and his mother was there, you know, and his grandmother and all of that. So it's a place that is very close to my heart.
Absolutely.
You know, and what you are doing and down there in terms of trying to revitalize that area of the city is really very important to me, because, you know, I mean, it has so much memories for me, you know, just traversing those streets, you know. I remember as a small child walking down from my school on Bond Street, you know, going down, passing Treasure Isle. I didn't know then, I mean, who this man was, but I saw this intimidating figure with his shotgun and his
big Duke,
you know,
big Duke,
and his revolver, you know, and
big Duke,
you know, and his cap and a lot of rings and chains and all of that. And you know, this guy really looked intimidating. It was later that I would learn that this man was such a major contributor to Jamaican music, and that so much was going on in that place where I saw
little section there,
all of those crates, you know, beer crates and drinks crates. My grandmother would be taking me down to the market, you know, with her at lunchtime, and there it was. But then, you know, years after, when you start connecting the dots, you learn that this man was really a pioneering figure.
Of course.
And the Duke was really a master of his craft, you know.
And you know, Clyde Paul, if I should just interject here quickly, Another thing that should be known is that both Duke Reed and Coxsone Dodd, uh, Duke is, to the best of my knowledge, a Portlander. Coxsone, on the other hand, I understand he's a Kingstonian.
Born under the
But
clock.
yes, he's a Kingstonian. But his schooling, his early schooling, and his connection is to the parish of Portland. They're both Maroon ancestry, you know. Both Duke Reed, who is from the Moortown side of Portland, that set of Maroons, and Coxsone Dodd, who is from the Charlestown side, that set of the Maroons. They're both Portlanders and with strong ties to the Maroons of Portland.
There's an interesting piece of history there.
Yeah, and that is why Coxsone's mother, great
Miss
lady,
Darlington.
Nanny is named after our national hero, Nanny of Portland.
Right.
That's where she took Dodd Clement back to go to school there. And I remember when some years ago, before he died, Jah rest his soul, we had a function at the Safford Yard in Charlestown honoring him, and all of his old timers who were still alive then, who went to school with him, including the great Richmond. Forgot his last name. No, he was actually the colonel of the Charlestown Maroons then, and he told me that Clement Dodd was one of his best friends at the same space.
Hold a second, Julian.
Yes,
We'll
sir.
be right back. This is Musical Speaking. I'm Clyde Mckenze, and here with me today we have Kevin Williams, there is Danelia Doyle, there is Joel, and there's Zuri. And we're having fun here talking with Julian Jingles Reynolds, a man from downtown. He has been all over the world, but his heart is downtown. Julian, this coming weekend is very important.
Yes,
downtown,
sir.
because we're celebrating the 80th anniversary of a very special man, a man who I really love. Talking about James Howard, Jimmy Solar. And you will also be honoring the memory of Don Drummond and Sir Coxsone Dodd at this celebration, and the bridge will be there.
Yes, sir.
Yes, this Saturday coming, that's the 13th, and Sounds and Pressure will be honoring Jimmy Solar and will be celebrating the memory of Drummond and Dodd. The thing is, historically, we should situate Jazz Hut, which is owned and operated by Jimmy Solar, and say the start and the dawn of
Yes.
the sound system.
Yes.
Now, it is just, Jimmy and his business are located between Chancery Lane and Orange Street. Am I correct?
Yes, sir. Yes. Yes.
And that's on Charles Street.
Yes.
But just further down the road, as you head west,
yes.
in fact, as you cross over Orange Street,
yes.
then you are where the Jamaican sound system was really
Yes.
born, because
Yes.
that's where Tom the Great Sebastian
Yeah.
started
at the corner of
at Luke Lane and Charles
Charles
Street.
Street.
Yes. Now that's big because it shows you the importance of that little area. Within that little region, you have, in easy walking distance, Prince Buster is there,
Yeah. Cox and Dodd
Cox
was
and
on the
Dodd
corner.
there,
Yeah.
and Bob Marley would be
Great Lee Perry,
Scratch Perry and
Taylor.
90 and all of these people,
Yeah.
and you know you have Jayut up at
In
the top,
that.
and,
Yeah.
and then you have Leslie Kong up at North Street,
And Chris Blackwell.
well, Chris
Legal
Blackwell
Chris.
was a partner of Leslie Kong, you know.
That's where Island Records was originally
Right.
formed.
So it's that kind of thing that a lot of people don't know and don't understand about that region. We're talking about maybe a walking distance of less than 400 yards, you know.
Yes.
And in all of that area that we're talking about, you have so much by way of musical and creative commerce, you know.
Yes.
Tom was a haberdasher, but he decided to use the sound system as a way to lure people into his business, and soon it became a major part of Jamaican culture. And we need to appreciate and accept that, and we should be making these places landmarks, so that
sir.
people can come and say, oh, this is where the sound system
Yes, sir.
actually originated, because
Absolutely.
many people don't know and don't understand the significance of these landmarks, many of which have gone into ruin. There's nothing there that shows that Leslie Kong's Beverly's Records was on Orange Street. It's total. It's in total ruin. There is no evidence that anything, and you go to Channel One, and the same thing is happening when you look there. Well, at least you see the sign. You know that Channel One was there.
Channel One,
But I mean, when you come to Beverly's, there is nothing to indicate
there,
that this was such an important place.
Yeah.
And so, what you're doing there, Julian, in trying to bring
what we are doing,
what we are doing. Yes, it's very important, and I want you to talk a little bit about this initiative and what Sound and Pressure is doing, and the importance of this event come Saturday, the celebration of Jimmy Sola's birthday.
It's something that we need to continue doing. We will be doing more of this. We have already done a few things, but it comes down to, in a nutshell, let's go straight to the jugular. It's all about money, Clyde Paul, really. No matter how much passion, no matter how much whatever you have, no matter the history you have, if you, for one, don't accept and appreciate the value of what you're talking about and what you're doing, and then if you don't have the dinero, the cash to execute that, then it's almost like naught, you know. And it's been always a struggle for the Sounds and Pressure Foundation to attract the kind of financing and capital that is required to do what we are doing. And I must go back to where it started for me, because this is another driving force. In 1995, my late wife and I, Charmaine, visited New Orleans for a week vacation. And we came away understanding the similarities of New Orleans, that famous cultural tourism destination, one of the top 10 spots in the United States of America for tourists to visit New Orleans. We found out, Charmin and I, that it had the same size, similar size, the population, the cultural drive in terms of the food, the music was all there in New Orleans, and people were spending billions with a B dollars, Clyde Paul, from that time to now, per year, going to New Orleans. And Kingston, Jamaica, with the same similarities, was struggling to try to survive out of poverty. And this is what really is driving me until this day, that we must do something about it. Whether the government wants to be involved or not, we have to involve them because they are the leaders and they are the ones who have access and the thing and the direction and the policies. So we're working with them. Alhamdulillah, we're working with the ministries of tourism and the ministries of culture and entertainment. But the kind of a financing that is required to do all these things, Sounds and Pressure has recognized 16, 17 musical heritage spots in what we describe as the musical heritage zone that runs from Luke Lane in the west over to Church Street in the east. We had gone as far as to Love Lane, and when we submitted our plans to NEPA said, take another block, and from rather than go to Love Lane where the Wall Theatre and all that is, go over to Church Street. And it's good for us because I remember, and again, one of the top sound systems of the era came out of that area, a sound system by the name of Kelly's, from that Church Street, that side. And it has a history. We run from North Parade, where Randy's, Joe Gibbs, name it. We all grew up in it. That's where we're the mecca of the Jamaican music industry. People travel from all over to go to North Parade to buy the latest records they got. Up to North Street, where Beverly's, Leslie Kong started Beverly's restaurant and what have you, and then a record shop, one of the top record shops.
People tell me, I mean, I've been told
Yes.
that really Kingston, if you're really talking about Kingston,
Yes, sir.
you're talking about a region that is bound to the south by Harbour Street,
Yes.
to the north by North Street, to the
Yeah.
west by West Street, and to the east by East Street. That is really Kingston. And anything outside of that is not really Kingston. It's somewhere St. Andrew or someplace else.
Whatever. Yeah. Yeah.
You
But
know?
it's there. It's where the dynamics of, of the music. My good friend, our good friend, and he's struggling with the Jamaica Music Museum. But
mean
Herbie
Herbie?
Miller Herbie was the first person in our discussions, and Herbie was also one of the founding members of the Sounds and Pressure Foundation, along with Dr. Dennis Howard, Colby Graham, Roy Black, Keith Lumsden, and others.
Kingsley Goodison.
The great Kingsley. It would not have been, because when I came back and decided, with my wife's blessing, that I should spend more time in Jamaica to establish what we had experienced in New Orleans, the first people that I turned to was Kingsley Goodison, Clement Dodd, and King Stitt, because they were my close friends, all three, and they were the ones who understood the history of the music much more so than I.
And Kingsley was closely associated with Dodd at the time.
Huh?
And Kingsley was closely associated with Dodd.
Yeah, very much. And I have had an excellent relationship with Mr. Dodd over the years. Excellent. I served him in New York as marketing manager, as consultant, and we did a lot. So when I decided that I was going to do what I can to improve the value and have more funds running to the communities, that the communities could better benefit from the value of what they produce that impacted the world, I turned to Kingsley, I turned to Dodd, and I turned to Stitt. We sat.
Now tell
Yes.
me in a nutshell what the initiative that you're pursuing would look like in terms of the transformation of downtown. Many of these properties are privately owned. I'm sure you will have to secure buy-in from the owners of these properties. And also there is a question now that government should be very instrumental in providing the supporting mechanism for you to get your things done.
The foundation is not about taking control of properties. I mean, there are properties that are there already that Sounds and Pressure members are owners of.
Right.
30 Charles Street, where Jazz Out is one.
Yes.
Dr. Dennis Howard is a founding, member of the Sounds and Pressure Foundation.
Right, and yes,
His
and
dad
Jimmy.
came in later
Yes.
as one of my best friends for the longest time, and he's also a member of the foundation, right? So we own property there. We meaning found Sounds and Pressure, but also over on Nanny's Corner. The next big important
Right.
area for us is Nanny's Corner, where we mentioned of her earlier. That's at Love Lane and Beeson Street, where Nanny, the mother of Dodd,
Right, that's where Dodd started, right? That's where he started his business.
That started the,
Yes.
the whole sound system that grew into Studio One Records up at Studio One Boulevard. Today, it began at Love Lane and Beeson
And
Street.
Beeson Street, yes.
At the corner.
She had a bar there,
No-
right?
Huh?
Miss Darlington had a bar there.
Yes, yes. She and her sister operated, and that's where they started to play the sound, and that's where she, because when Sir Coxon was away and farm work,
She
and what
played
have
it.
you,
She played the sound.
she played the sound.
Yes, most people don't know that.
She's the first Jamaican female
Selector.
sound operator, Nanny Darlington. So these are the things that we are highlighting beginning on Saturday, again, to bring recognition to the importance, the significance, and the value of what we have, that it has earning power, because people from, listen, I will never forget this, Clyde Paul. Jimmy and I were down at Jazzo, just the two of us one day, like on a Tuesday, in the early afternoon, mid-afternoon thereabout. And a young man came into the bar asking us if he's in the right area. He's looking for Prince Buster's shop, which has been closed now for years. Now, this is a young man
which is
who-
less than 200 yards from where you were sitting. Maybe.
less than 100.
Yes.
Less than 100 from where we were sitting.
Yes.
And this young man traveled all the way from Mexico City. He's a trombonist and he's a chef in a restaurant in Mexico City. And he came to Kingston downtown because he knew so much about the history of Jamaican music, in particular ska, and the importance of the great Cecil Prince Buster Campbell to what we have. And he traveled all the way from Mexico City to downtown Kingston to experience that. And he said to us, to Jimmy and I, he said, is there any weird down here that because he had said, got a place, what you call it, B&B or whatever.
Airbnb.
Yeah, somewhere outside, up in the Half a Tree area. And he took his back bus and what have you. And that young man remains an inspiration to what we're doing, because we know every day somebody from somewhere passed through downtown just to experience primarily Buster's place, because Buster is like the first international superstar that brought recognition to what Jamaica has, was Prince Buster. And
Yeah.
all over the world,
His
people-
influence in Britain and, as you said, in the rest of the world is significant.
Enormous.
And the thing is that we are not capitalizing on the impact that these people have, just telling their stories, because there are so many people across the world who want to hear their stories and
Of
want to
course.
see where
course.
these people operated
course.
from. And
course.
and when you really see sometimes
Yeah.
the humble beginnings
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
these people really had, and how they
Yeah.
managed to influence the
Yeah.
world.
Well,
That's-
I'm telling you, man, it's in a way sad. It's in a way sad, because even the event, and I must say this so that you and the listeners can understand the struggle that we have to go through, those of us who know and those of us who are prepared to do. We have not, apart from the bridge, Sounds and Pressure, Jazzot, we have not gotten one single sponsor to date to support the event this coming Saturday. Excuses have been made that it was too short a notice and what have you. But alhamdulillah, inshallah, we are able to make it happen, Clyde Paul. We're going to make it happen because we know the essence of the value. We know it. We live it, we grew up in it. And in comparison to others, maybe, like for myself, I've traveled all over and I see the impact. I've lived in New York City and I know the importance and the impact of culture on
Yeah,
development, on
undoubtedly,
national development. I know
undoubtedly,
it.
undoubtedly.
And that's what we're pushing.
And so we're gonna be celebrating Jimmy Solo 80 years.
80th,
Yes.
Big 80.
And this
And
is a man.
recognizing the impact that Don Drummond and the master trombonist Don Drummond and Clement Coxon Dad has made to the Jamaican music industry.
So we're looking forward to that this Saturday. Jingles.
Beginning 12 noon.
Yes, and we're gonna
At
have
30
fun,
Charles
and
Street.
people like Wee Paul will be there, and the spinning,
Yes.
and maybe Dr. Howard himself will be spinning.
Yes. Yes.
Because he's no
Roy Black.
no slouch at the turntables.
No, not at all. Not at all. Not at all.
So
Yes,
it's really something to be a part of. And tonight, of course, there is the Irama Awards at the Pegasus Hotel.
Yes.
And Jamaicans should go out and support this event.
Yes.
Because it is an initiative that is undertaken by another Jamaican who lives abroad. Ephraim
Yes.
Martin, a product of the Gleaner too.
My colleague and friend.
Yes, so
Old friend.
it's a small world, and
Yes,
everything interlocks. So, want to thank you, Julian, for being here with us.
Alhamdulillah. Thank you so much for having me on, Clyde Paul. Really appreciate
Anytime,
it.
my brother. This has been Musically Speaking. Want to thank Kevin Williams. Want to thank Danelia Doyle. Want to thank Zuri and Joel for being here with us. We'll see you next week. And remember, the Martins Awards tonight, the 40th anniversary. And hey, Reggae Sumfest this year is going to be massive. There is that huge tribute to the king himself, the tribute to the king. Jammies, where are you going? That's going to be big. Remember last year when they had that one for Dave Kelly? That was massive. Well, look out for this one with the king himself, Jammies. Musically Speaking, make way for Jack Scorpio, another legend.